Hey family, did you know that if you have the proper nutrition and proper training, you could actually gain 1 to 2 pounds of muscle mass every single month? In this video, I'm gonna show you how to bulk without getting fat. We're gonna discuss common mistakes that people do, such as not eating enough and not getting plenty of protein to feed their muscles. I'm gonna show you the fastest and easiest approach that consists of focusing on progressive overload and getting plenty of protein. And watch till the end of the video, and I'm gonna tell you other common mistakes that a lot of people do when bulking that's gonna help you prevent a lot of fat gain as you approach bulking, aka your muscle building phase. So first, we're gonna talk about the principles of bulking. And bulking and gaining muscle, you could get pretty complicated and in-depth with all these approaches that could be very helpful, but at the same time, sometimes are unnecessary because it might discourage somebody from actually bulking. And I'll tell you the main things that you have to focus. And the things that you focus on is making sure you're getting plenty of calories and making sure you're getting adequate amount of macronutrients, which is gonna be like protein, carbs, and fats. But I'm gonna tell you an easy approach so you don't have to complicate things so much. So when it comes to calories and your macronutrients, such as your protein, carbs, and fats, all of that is gonna be important. But from all my years of experience and helping other people, you don't have to track every single macronutrient when you're bulking. The only thing that I would tell you to focus on is making sure you're getting plenty of food, which means that your body's not gonna be in a hungry state. So I want you to focus on satiety. I don't want you to overeat, but I want you to sit down and eat enough food where when you're eating, you're like, okay, I'm feeling kind of full, and you stop there. Don't stuff your face, but then also don't undereat. So I want you to just focus on eating plenty of food where you feel nice and satisfied, and then you stop right there. And the only thing that I want you to focus when it comes to your macronutrients is your protein. I want you to make sure that every meal has protein. So when you're having your breakfast, I want you to think about, where is my protein for breakfast? Common protein for breakfast could be eggs, but it could be any other meat. Cheese, that's gonna be your protein. For lunch and dinner, it could be a little bit easier because it could be any meat. So every single time you're gonna have a meal, make sure you think about where is your protein. And by doing that, you're gonna make sure that you're eating plenty of food. You're being mindful about every meal having protein, and that's gonna be enough to feed your muscles during training. Last thing on satiety that I will say is just make sure that you are not eating excessively until you're like super full, because then you might gain too much weight that's gonna be unnecessary fat. So I want you to make sure that you eat and think about where you feel satisfied, and that's where you want to stop. If you feel like you're eating and you're still hungry, then that's probably not enough food. So you just got to be mindful about how full you are, and just slightly full, that should be enough to help you with muscle gain. So when it comes to bulking, if there is a secret or the secret sauce that somebody should focus on, because there's so many things that people tell you, focus on this and that for bulking. But if there's one thing, there's just one thing that you could focus on, is your training, which is your lifting. So you gotta make sure that you're focusing on progressive overload. And let me explain what that is. But the thing is, why I say this is the secret sauce is because really, if you ate whatever you wanted, let's just say you were really not caring too much about your nutrition, but you were eating plenty of food. You were not tracking protein or anything, but you're just eating plenty of food, but you were training your butt off, you're gonna gain muscle. And an example could be like, let's just say a football player. Let's say let's say football players, some eat healthy, but there's some football players that they just candy anything that comes up. But because they're pro NFL players, their job is to lift heavy weights, get strong because their job depends on it. So they're eating crappy, but they're training so hard that sometimes you're like, oh my God, these guys are so jacked. So that's why training is so important. And let me tell you how you're going to focus on progressive overload. It doesn't have to be complicated. This is how simple I do it, my clients do it, and you could do it. Any exercise you do, we just got to make sure that we're getting stronger. So simple thing could be, a perfect example could be the bench press. Okay? If you're doing 100 pounds on the bench press and you could do it for 3 sets of 10, next day or next week that you hit the bench press, instead of 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 11. Now each set went up by 1 rep. You're progressing. Next week, it might be 12, 12, 12. The following week, 14, 14, 14. So the progression could be that simple. And if you are getting stronger, doing more reps and more weight over time, you're going to gain more muscle. Now to the common mistakes that I've seen people do when they're bulking. And I really want you to get these in your head because I really want to make sure that you get the best out of your bulking phase and that you don't dislike your body as you progress. And one thing is, some people gain more than 2 pounds per month of body weight. We know that when we're bulking and we're trying to pack muscle and size, you have to go up on weight. But if you're gaining weight too fast, yes, you're gaining muscle, but you're going to be gaining also fat, that it might get to a point where you feel too fat, where you're like, you know what, I'm going to abort this bulk because I feel too fat. And then you didn't spend enough time bulking, that you didn't make the muscle gains that you wanted. So make sure 1 to 2 pounds per month. That way you're gaining at a slow rate, which allows you to stay in the bulking phase longer, which is going to allow you to build more muscle. The next common mistake that people do is they don't track their body weight or the lifts that they're doing, the exercises that they're doing. So you got to make sure, how are you going to know that you're not gaining more than 2 pounds per month? You have to track your weight. So by you having that data, you're going to hold yourself accountable to know whether you're gaining at the appropriate rate. But then also, when it comes to your training, you want to make sure that you're writing this down. What you did today, write it down. So next time you go do that exercise, you could have it on your phone or on a piece of paper or a little booklet and know what you did so you could try to beat those numbers. And the perfect example that I like to tell people is, some people say, hey, I want to get better with my finances. I want to save more money or make more money. What is the first thing that a financial advisor or you're going to do? You have to look at your finances. You have to be like, how much do I make? How much do I spend? And that's the only way. You cannot just go by it without writing stuff down to see where you're at. And the same things comes to your nutrition and your fitness training. So to summarize this, fam, I want to tell you guys, keep it simple. Everything that I discussed today, we could make it more complicated. I could get very detailed, but sometimes you don't have to complicate things. You could keep it simple. And the beauty about keeping it simple is that you don't overwhelm yourself, and it allows you to be like, hey, what he said is doable. This is easy. I could do this. But if I complicated the things, it's going to be so much that it's hard to keep up. It might be doable in the beginning, but sometimes too much over time just feels overwhelming. So just make sure you keep it simple. Now I have a question for you, family. What have you struggled with when it comes to gaining muscle? Write a comment below that may help somebody else that might be struggling with the same thing you are. All right, family, have a blessed day. Peace.